We're live.
We're live.
We're live. For those who remember going live, I always think going live when we do this. Welcome to another Wagstaff LinkedIn Live. Delighted to be joined by Michelle from Candidate Source today. I'm going to let Michelle introduce herself in full. For those who haven't joined our LinkedIn Live sessions, these are informative sessions that we at Wagstaff think our audience and people who work with us, there's going to be some value here. And this seems a little bit of a strange subject sometimes when we talk to our customers about advertising and how you advertise your jobs and what you can do for yourself. Because the reality is, we believe you should only be using a recruitment agency when you need the heavy lifting, you need that expertise to help you take that process the whole way through. There are times where you can, as employers, write really great adverts, get them on the job boards and get a response indirectly. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So please use the comments to say hello or ask any questions. And I'm going to pass over to Michelle, who we do a lot of work with. So at Wagstaff, we every year, and it's always September, which is why we've done this session now, we look at our job board spend, we look at where we've had a return on our investment, and we look at what we're going to spend for the year going forward. And then we place that order with Candidate Source. So Michelle, thank you for taking your time and taking the time to come on our LinkedIn Live. Could you just introduce yourself to our audience and give a little bit of an overview about Candidate Source?
Yep, so Michelle Davis, Candidate Source. Been in recruitment 23 years straight from school, and only ever looked at candidate attraction when we started from a mainstream agency who didn't believe that candidates would search for jobs on the web. They didn't believe people would apply for jobs on the web, but needed a presence. So obviously that didn't go quite as they expected. And since then, we've looked after multiple recruitment agencies and anything to do with candidate attraction, from getting the best deal money-wise, but also then making sure that once you've decided on your job board and you've got your advert, how you make that advert work for you to get the best return on investment, and basically to fill the vacancies that you've got, but also to make sure that your employment brand is enforced. So anybody in the marketplace knows who you are, what you're offering, how you treat your candidates, how you treat your employees. And that's basically what Candidate Source does, is candidate attraction, job boards, nothing else.
And it was interesting when we started to look at our return on investment this year. We obviously looked backwards and looked at what job boards has worked for us, but we also thought, well, the market changes and you always hear lots of different things. And one of the things that we can start to hear is job boards aren't delivering the return on investment. People don't apply for jobs anymore. So we went out to our database and just thought, okay, let's just try and check in and see what's happening to people within our network. And I think it was quite interesting because 65% of people in our survey said they would, if they were starting to look for a job, they would upload their CV to a job board. So that's them being very active in their role. 40% of people said they would passively look at an advert but not upload their CV. And I think that's important because there has been some nervousness of candidates in the past, especially with internal talent acquisition teams, that they think their CVs are going to be visible to their employers. And I think that's shifted how people, maybe, Michelle, you can probably throw a bit of light on that. People used to just put their CVs on the job boards and let the job boards work for them. And was it true that people then got a little bit nervous of who was seeing their CV?
I think candidates at the moment are selective.
Right.
So most candidates, and I was reading something the other day, but the highest motivator for somebody looking for a job is more money.
Yeah,
that they want
we've seen the same.
higher pay. You know, we're all watching the pennies, and that is one of the biggest motivators. And I think a lot of people don't want to be inundated with jobs that they're not interested in. So an advert gives the candidate anonymity right up until the point that they say, this is the job for me, here's my CV, and they have total control.
Yeah.
The job boards encourage people to register their CV in the database. So as a candidate, when you go on and search for the first time, the job boards encourage you to create a profile. They encourage you to sign up for daily email alerts, and they encourage you to register your CV.
Yeah.
But for some people, if I was looking for a job, I would want control of that. I would want to check, because I don't want to be speaking to people about jobs I'm not interested in.
No.
So I want to look at a job. I want to know it's got the information I want before I apply. So I'm not surprised that 40% of people don't register their CV.
And I think it depends on your personal circumstances. So I think if you have been made redundant and you are active in the market, you will do everything possible to be able to view as many jobs and be connected with as many people. But the market stats are 20% of people are active and will do that. 60% are not interested at all. So you're never going to get them looking at a job board, and 20% are passive. And with advert writing, for me, it's about that 20%. How do we engage and attract the passive 20% that aren't going to upload their CV onto that job board? And that's really what we're here to talk about today, about this power of these great adverts. And I think it's really interesting as well, Michelle, that you talked about brand. We talk a lot about employee value proposition. You know, what's individual to your organization and your business that will make somebody say, I want to work for that organization. Alongside money, what we've also found as well is stability.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter if the salary's there, because people are aware that a higher salary could be a short-term fix. It's got to be with some longevity, and what does the stability look within that organization? What could the career opportunities be? And maybe not just the career progression into a more senior role, but to learn more skills, develop their technical skills, or whatever they're looking to develop personally. So let's dig in and talk about an advert then. So the good, the bad,
and the ugly.
What springs to mind? What do you see when you see an advert that's poorly written? What's missing? What are those things that you think, oh my goodness,
I think
this is a waste of your money?
Yeah, the biggest mistake that people make is two things. They don't know how the technology works. So they write a beautiful job, but nobody can find it because it doesn't manipulate the search engine on the job boards. And secondly, they write the advert from their perspective rather than the candidates. So when they write the advert, they don't think, what does the candidate need to know? They're focusing on what they're looking for as a company and what they believe. So a great example of that is a recruitment agency set up by the chairman's mother, and their adverts are always 3/4 about how the business was set up and about 6 lines about the job.
Okay.
Now, I understand that as a company, you are proud of your heritage, but as a job seeker at that stage, there's only really one thing they want to know about, and that's what's in it for me. Why do I want to go and work for that company? And job seekers have got a few things that they need to know before they apply for a job.
Okay.
So they want to know how much they're being paid. So for those people who think, if I hike the salary, I'll get more people apply, you won't. Because job seekers go on and search on the salary. So all the jobs they see meet that salary criteria. So if you've got no salary, it won't be seen. And if it can't be seen, I can't apply. or if your salary is in some way a huge range, or you've put up to, then you're not giving the candidate the decision they need to say, yes, this job's for me. So salary is important. Location, people hide the location again because they think they get a wider pool. You don't, you need a postcode. And then the advert doesn't focus on what we need to encourage the candidate to apply. Okay, so you said earlier about job security, and we always say that that's what the advert needs to smell of. It needs to smell of job security. Okay. So they need to know something about the company. Now these are branded adverts. So a great one is we see sales jobs and it doesn't mention that they're a market leader, or that they're an international company, or they're a family-run business that's been there for 60 years. Because that's the bits of information that A, will tell me whether I'm going to earn the money that you've said I will and I want, and B, give me that idea of job security. Because people, rightly or wrongly, still believe that it's last in, first out. And if
so this is a balance now, isn't it, between what you were saying about the company that's putting all about how they've been established, because part of what their story is and what they're proud about, certain elements of that are going to be valid in this job advert, aren't they?
They are.
Taking those key bits, but the relevant bits to showcase why somebody should work for their organisation.
Yeah, I mean, you only want your advert to be 2 swipes of a mobile phone. So if you are writing War and Peace, you're not going to get the other messages across because you've lost them on a history lesson. That's your induction. This is about selling a job. I'm a job seeker. I'm on the job board for a job. I can go on.
You say a swipe of two swipes. What sort of character length are we talking then, or word count?
You're probably looking at about 3/4 of a page of A4.
Okay.
And that's long enough to give me enough information, but not too long that you've lost me. Or I've got bored. If they want to do that much research on the company, they'll go on your website, and somewhere on your website you will have all that information. But I'm on a job board because I'm looking for a job.
Yeah.
And the reason that we're including some information about the company is to say this job is secure.
Yeah.
This is, and you know, you can't say excellent benefits without saying this is a good company, because one holds hands with the other, and you're trying to give them a picture of why I'm going to send you my CV. Because if I'm not registering it at a job board, you need me to send it to you. So information about the company. I'm then interested in what the job is. These are the bits of the job I like. Am I going to be doing that if I move over to you? So the advert should have 5 or 6 sexiest bits of the job. The bits that somebody doing that job enjoys. So, you know, for a recruiter, that would be about developing client relationships, not cold calling, even though really it's the same thing. So it's about thinking about what your candidates enjoy, what the people doing that job now employ. There's nothing better in an advert than blueprinting somebody who does the job and saying to that person, right, you've been here 20 years, you love it, why have you stayed? And all of that should be in the advert. Why do these people work for us? Well, because I get to do this and I get to do that, and this is part of my job role. If they find it interesting and that's why they stay, that should be within the job role of the ad.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. Such a quick and easy thing to do, isn't it? When you're about to write the advert, the person that's there, why, if they're doing a similar job, or if somebody's leaving with, you know, they're retiring, they're a good leaver. Okay, you're leaving, but what did you love about that job? Or if they've been promoted, what was great about it? That it just speaks more on a human level rather than a job description, doesn't it? And we've seen it all, haven't we? The copy and paste of a job description into an advert.
Yeah. A job description is what HR use to tick boxes. It's a checklist, basically. It's not how we would sell the job to a candidate. And that's what the advert is. You're selling the job. There's lots of vacancies and not as many candidates as we'd like. And these passive job seekers have got choice.
Yeah.
So if I don't apply for your job, you never have the chance to have that conversation with me. So your advert needs to be, if you like, that conversation.
And how? So we've got salary, we've got location, we've got the sexy bits of the job that you really like.
Yeah.
The excellent benefits.
Fantastic benefits, excellent.
Yeah. Can we just expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, it's what I get from this job more than my salary. So I was reading some research that Reed had done, and Reed had spoke to candidates and said, what makes you decide to apply for a job? And salary obviously is the highest, but there's things like the culture, the environment, well-being. You know, what does the company do to give me a life balance? We've all still come out of COVID and working from home. We know that people don't want to travel as far. Total Jobs have just done an offline campaign that's all about you don't want to commute. Job boards have introduced travelling by time, not just by mileage, because people want that balance. So in the advert, how do I get that work-life balance? How are you going to take care of my well-being, my mental health? What do you do to support that? What environment am I working in? What's the team like? Any social things that are going to enrich? What corporate responsibility has the company got? What do you do to support charities or the environment? Candidates are interested in the whole package. What makes this job special to me? And that needs to be included in the advert as well. And that's why talking to somebody who does the job is important, because you may be a lot more senior. You might have been detached from working within that environment. And the things that you think are important might not actually be important to the person who does the job. You know, training, what support do I get? How will this further my career? And speaking to somebody who does the job will give you that information. You know, don't underestimate having breakfast Thursday, where the team all sit together and have breakfast together, because just putting that tells the reader that this is a nice place to work. You know, so you might have breakfast Friday, you might have donuts on a Tuesday, you might all go out for a food when it's somebody's birthday. What you're saying is, this is a nice place to work, and you spend more time at work than you do anywhere else a week. So saying this is a good place reinforces the fact that the job's sexy, reinforces your employment brand, that you're a good company. And then the thing that we focus on most that we shouldn't is what actually they need, because that normally ends up being the biggest part of the advert. We want this. And actually, what you should be saying is, if you've previously done this sort of job, if you've previously got experience of this software, if you've got qualifications that meet my needs, we want to see your CV. We want to speak to you.
I want to hear from you,
Yeah, because that's just giving the candidate the tick to say, you love the job, you're the right person we're looking for, send us your CV. Because that's what we want. We can't just sit there and go, we've got a job, we're brilliant, send us your CV, because you're the one that wants the favour, you're the one that wants the CV. You're not doing anybody a favour just saying, I've got a job. You've got to sell it.
And going back to your point at the beginning, so you mentioned technology. And one of these things where people aren't getting responses is because it isn't fitting the algorithms.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about algorithms and Google and how that impacts on an advert.
So people wrongly believe that jobs go on a job board in date order. So the newest jobs go at the top, the oldest jobs go at the bottom. and your job always goes on, but it depends where it goes on. None of that is right. All of the job boards are built for the candidate experience. So they only want to give candidates jobs that meet their search. So when a candidate goes on and says, I want to be a widget maker in Inverness, earning 50 grand a year, the job board scurries off and it checks all of the jobs that are on there. And depending on how closely that job matches the candidate's search, that job is given what they call a relevancy score. Okay. And the higher the score, the higher your job will come up on that search. So if it's, matches and the score is higher, it goes on page 1. What it also does is it goes out on the jobs by email. Now, earlier, Ruth, you said there was 20 people who are active, 20% of people are active, 20% of people are passive, and 60% of people aren't looking. But if any of those 60% have ever registered on a job board, the chances are they're still getting what they call jobs by email. Yeah. So this is where the candidate's gone on and said, if you get any jobs that match this criteria, email them to me. And that's how we start to capture these passive job seekers and the 60% who've said, I'm not looking. Because if they get an email with your job on and your job is just wow, even that 60% might think, oh, I actually
have a little look.
So these jobs by email actually hit 80% of your audience. The 20% are active, but the other 80% we hit with the jobs by email, even if they don't think they're being hit by them. And how that jobs by email gets sent out is also by relevancy search, relevancy score. So there's lots of ways you can get your score up. You need a salary, you need a postcode, you need a job title that people will call that job. You might call it a stock replenishment officer. The rest of us will call it a shelf stacker. So Google Trends is a great way of going on, putting all the job titles in and seeing which is the most popular, and that's the one you're going to use.
Do you know what? That for me is the eye opener as well, because businesses are always evolving. They're always looking at either merging a couple of roles or, if you look at recruitment, we're now talent acquisition. There's lots of different types of roles. And like you say, stores and materials controllers, and there's lots of things. It's taking it back to basics, isn't it? But there is a tool. So Google can't even say it. Google Trends is the thing to
and that's
to do.
Relevant to now. So, if you've been doing this a long time, you might call it X, whereas actually the candidate searching today might not. Or we get people who advertise a sales admin job, but there's no sales involved. You're supporting the sales people, but you don't have to sell. So why are you putting people off calling it's a sales administrator when there's no sales? Just put admin. So we forget to look at it from the candidate point of view. And it's all tricks like that. How many times you mention the job title, how many times it's in the advert, how long your advert is, that gets up this relevancy score. And that's when we're writing the advert, we also need to make sure we manipulate that relevancy score so that when the job goes out, it goes out to the maximum number of relevant people. We don't want people that aren't relevant because that's not helpful. But we want to make sure that it goes out to relevant people on that email and to people who are searching, so we can hit as many of those passive and not looking people as we can. Because not looking just means that I'm not active. It doesn't mean that if it pops up in my inbox and looks brilliant, then I'm not going to think, oh, I'm just going to have a... And they're the people that we really want.
Yeah, absolutely. So to summarise then, starting at the top, good job title.
Yep, job title.
And I think for people who are using multi-posters and are using some of that technology behind there, where we can post to multiple job boards, I think it's worth saying, and I heard you say this at a speech that you gave about if you put a job title in and the job board suggests a title, you should
Take the
take
suggestion.
that because they've done their research and they know that suggestion is the right one.
And they will have grouped job titles together. So by selecting that one, the job board knows that there are alternative job titles that will feed into it. So always use what's suggested, or take that suggestion, run it through Google Trends, because the only problem with a job board suggestion is it's just what's on that job board. Whereas if you're working with a multi-poster and using multiple job boards, Google Trends would also either confirm that that works across the board or just the one.
Yeah. Okay. So job title, salary must be on there. Postcode must be on there. Benefits, don't put just excellent benefits. It's got to be list them, but it's above and beyond your statutory normal stuff. So if you're just doing normal holidays, don't put it as a benefit. Yeah. It's just what's going to be in the contract.
Yeah.
Kerry's just commented in the chat, so I'm just keeping an eye on things, saying multi-posters don't find them they work as well, and having to rejig afterwards when you're putting on multiple job boards. And I think that's the challenge, isn't it? If you are a business or a recruiter that is using multiple job boards and using a multi-poster, it's trying to juggle between, because am I right in saying that the different job boards have different criteria? So Read might be different to Job Site, to be different to Total and CV Library, of how they bring together their information?
Yes, so it is, but if you understand the rules for each of the job boards that you use, you can merge that information to produce one job board that will work, one advert that will work across them all. The problem comes is if you write your advert based on the training from one job board and then try and put that on others through a multi-poster, that's when you then end up with a problem. You don't need to write different adverts for different job boards. You just need to make sure that one advert works for all of the different rules. Okay.
That's more information than we can cover today. That's a whole new session of how you do the writing of that advert. There's a lot there. What about call to action at the bottom of an advert? I like what you've said about if you've got this experience, if you've got that experience. I like the way that's positioned. The call to action of in this day and age, is there an easy, what works well for people to apply?
Click here, click here, click this button. That I'm on there. I've probably already registered my CV with the job board. I might be on my phone. I might be on the bus. I might be having a sneaky look while the boss is away. We want to make it as easy as possible. Okay. So saying ring us, it's not going to happen because I might be at home. Your office might be closed. Email, am I really going to bother? No, because it needs click here. So we'd really like to see your CV. We are really keen to speak to. First stage of the process, click here and I'll come back to you.
I've also seen on job boards there's an option to ask questions. So if somebody hasn't got a CV and is how worth doing, not worth doing, depending on the role, too complicated?
It depends on the role. I mean, there are options on all the job boards now to set your advert as no CV. So you don't have to have an attachment. They can just click on apply and you get the contact details. For some recruiters that works because they have a job on where they're basically skills aren't as important as the person. There are other jobs where I want to see a CV because if you haven't got the skills that I need, the experience that I need, then really, with all due respect, I don't have the time to deal with it. So we've just had a client who's advertised 16 jobs and got 768 CVs. At that sort of level, if they'd said no CV, they'd have been in the thousands. We want to put an office administrator on Putney Bridge, and they had over 1,000 applications in 4 hours.
Okay.
So it depends on the job. It depends on the resources. It works, but not for everything.
Okay. And then just to wrap up, from our point of view, as we say, candidate source, great offering for being able to do branded adverts, get your brand out there on multiple job boards. You will help them write their adverts.
Yep.
And then there's several ways that the application process can go, can't it? They can apply into you, and you forward it on the CVs. If they've got something internally set up, they can do all of their own interviews.
Yep.
But sometimes this is where we work together with our customers, is you'll do the adverts for them, and then the recruiter will manage the process to do the first stage screening interviews. So there's different ways that you work with direct employers, in partnership with recruiters, and direct with recruiters, aren't there?
Yeah, I mean, basically, we fit in with what's needed from a resource point of view. So sometimes it'll be we write the ad from scratch. Sometimes we're sent an advert and we just do some tweaks. Sometimes we're sent an advert and somebody's adamant that's what's going on. We will always give feedback before we put it on. But at the end of the day, it's your company brand. It's your advert. We are just there to advise. And then some people will want us to do an initial screen. Some recruiters will want everything. We are flexible in what we do based on what the client needs and what the recruiter needs if we're working in partnership.
Perfect. Michelle, that was just over 30 minutes. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
We will share Michelle's details on our LinkedIn posts, so you can get in touch with Candidate Source, or just Google Candidate Source. And if you need any more information regarding direct advertising, please don't hesitate to get in touch. Michelle, thank you very much.
Thanks, Ruth.
Take care.